I recently got a new car, which is a lot for me since I normally drive an absolute beater, and I got about 4 years out of it before it just got a little too rusty, but even then was still technically running fine. And so I recently purchased a 2009 Scion XB, the bread loaf. That's right, the bread loaf. And last night I had it backed into my garage to work on it, and this morning I looked out my back window and she's gone. Stolen. Actually, in an incredible twist of events, the thieves found my spare key, just a door key, in my roommate's car. In her center console, they were rummaging through that to get stuff. Found the spare door key, got into my car that had a spare driving key, and made off stupid easy. There's a few more details that are pretty embarrassing, but the main factor is that I just got a new car, and she gone. I was supposed to be filming a video on covering a stereo install for it, putting some sound dampening material in it, and just kind of upgrading it to get it at a place where I knew I could just leave it, until this thing dies. So that's probably the biggest wrench that we can put in that, and I think that the most appropriate thing to do instead is to take you with me while I go and try to find it. And on this little journey, let's actually talk about what I've been doing to maintain some modicum of sanity, what I've been doing to try to maintain some sort of well-being and mental health and just mental stability in these incredibly trying times. I should specify more explicitly about solutions that I've found for achieving mindfulness in, times of crises like this. And mindfulness is a word I'm sure you've heard before, I'm sure you've heard misused before, but today I'm using it in the specific definition context of a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations, used as a therapeutic technique. And that's exactly how I perceive it, and that's exactly how I utilize it. The first thing that this is going to entail is actually establishing autonomy. I figured I would hop on the bike, do some laps on that 1 in a trillion chance that they made it a few blocks away or a couple miles away and abandoned a perfectly good car. If it isn't already obvious, your boy don't vlog, so this will probably be a learning experience, and you can come along with me for that, but we'll do our best. Alright, taking a break, chilling in the shade, trying to see if I can figure out a game plan to be more effective with my lost cause. One facet of this is that a block from my house is a motel of sorts. It's definitely a combo, quick stop, long extended stay situation. Even the officer, when they came by, said that, the motel up the street, I know we get lots of reports of blah, blah, blah. The first thing that I would want to do, obviously, is to blame the person who did this and say that, this motel that's up the road that's sketchy is housing a bunch of sketchy people. But, for every sketchy person that might be in there, I'm sure there's at least a dozen or more people who are there because they don't want to be, people that are there because it's a cheap motel that's not too far from the airport, people that are there because they're just disenfranchised and aren't exactly as excited about it, or aren't any more excited about it than I am. So I think at that point, the thing that I want to stress is keep perspective on the fact that these events are happening to the world. These events are happening to other people, and you can connect with them, you can resonate with them, you have that in common, you can relate with them, they understand to some extent what you're going through, and keeping connection with them is not only important for keeping your sanity, for keeping your mental health, but it's also a muscle that you need to flex that ideally in the next year or two we'll have to be expected to use as freely as we were last year, or the year before that. So try to do what you can to mitigate, social life. So I just rode past a bunch of little boys with no shirts on and Nerf guns, and as I went past with my camera in hand, one of them yells out, "Hey, YouTuber!" Which, YouTube, if you're listening, I expect my plaque to be in the mail by tomorrow. Something else that's been incredibly helpful for me is personal projects. Yeah, I'm talking about personal projects again, but they're really that good, honestly. They've helped me in a number of ways. They've done the obvious, like, surface level stuff of giving me skills that I could potentially expand into like more work, skills that could potentially leverage towards higher paying jobs, or at this point just being employed at all. But I think beneath that is actually the more important facets of giving yourself challenges that life isn't giving you. And one of those big ones is keeping those neurons, those synapses that, go off and connect and fire when you learn new skills is so important. And when you don't do it, they don't grow. When you don't do it, they don't strengthen, they don't rebuild, they don't make new ones. Everything just kind of comes to a halt. And so finding specifically for replacements for that career that's now gone, I think have been incredibly beneficial in helping keep me from feeling that uber dread that I've felt anytime I've lost work or been unemployed. That is just tragically unavoidable because our identities are attached to our careers. Something else to keep in mind is that, you have limits. It's probably pretty obvious. You're a human. You have certain thresholds. They're going to be different from everybody else's that, you can hit before you're just gassed out. The threshold that you might have been at before is just not the threshold that you're at now, That threshold that you might have your whole life understanding on is not based on you carrying all of these things, plus, crises for the world, plus losing your career, God knows what. So understanding your limits, respecting them, forgiving yourself for not being able to do these things that you want to do. It's okay. It's not a huge deal. It's incredibly healthy to be forgiving for yourself. We're actually already back at the house. It looks like it's gonna start raining anytime soon, so I figured I'd play it safe. But the next thing that actually comes to mind for things that have really helped me is CBD. And I know that's gonna sound like snake oil, but just for a bit of context, I spent basically my entire life militant straight edge. I avoided everything from alcohol, cigarettes, weed, all that stuff, to the extent that I wouldn't even take Tylenol for migraines because I didn't want to affect my pain tolerance and things like that. So just for anybody that's hesitant, for anybody suggesting substances to them, it's totally legal, it's scientifically backed, and the anxiolytic properties, its ability to mitigate anxiety, for me, has been unquestionable, and it helps achieve this almost just like a soft harmony in my mind, where, for an example, a situation that cripples me pretty frequently is I'll be at a wedding and I'll be, trying to catch all my shots. I'll be trying to stay present. There'll be an uncle talking to me from here. There's a DJ throwing whatever over here. And then there's even worse still, all the crosstalk, because I, like many people, find it incredibly difficult to not listen to the 6 conversations happening in the same room, and it becomes very exhausting. And what it achieves for me in that moment is a sort of calmness. It takes all that rattling and just buffs it down significantly. I never feel high, I never feel intoxicated, I just feel better able to process anxiety specifically. Why are you barking? Be nice. Look. Something else that probably sounds pretty obvious is having a healthy relationship with social media. It definitely adds another layer when you are a creative who relies on social media for their well-being, for their career, for a lot of their connection, for their business. And the extraneous factors for that are that, one, we are basically obligated to be on it because that's where our work is. And 2, that means that a lot of our peers are on it as well. And the big issue with that is that now we are seeing people who are in the same crises as us, but potentially finding greater or lesser success. And obviously, it's very intoxicating to focus on those peers who are experiencing greater success in these times than us, and to say to ourselves, the same way that we do with any other, person that we see on social media, but double down, especially with our actual career peers is, this person is achieving this success and they're doing X, very well while I'm failing at blank, and clearly that means that I'm failing. Or even worse still, that concept we talked earlier about building a toxic viewpoint of the world is to look at somebody and get jealous, to look at somebody and say, like, this isn't fair. I'm doing the same thing that they're doing. Why are they succeeding when I'm not? And the reality is that this crisis is just like life. It's not fair. It's not hitting everybody the same. It's hitting everybody. But it is definitely a real eye-opener as far as understanding how and where people are at in their lives when we see how greatly or little it affects them. But having a healthy understanding that their lives are their lives and your life is your life, and that you don't gain anything from focusing on theirs unless potentially you're, gleaning some sort of takeaways that you can, instill in your own life. Sure, that's great. But to understand that focusing on the present, your present, and what is happening to you in your life will make a huge difference in not allowing social media to become this absolute cesspool of negativity. Let's do back-to-back obvious tips and say that another thing that makes a huge difference and probably gets undervalued is exercise. Not just in the capacity of staying physically fit, but rather the amount of mental clarity, the amount of antidepressant that we can actually get, the amount of just even focus that is, gained from just a regular amount of physical activity is massive. And as somebody whose entire physical workout history has been in a gym, preferably using barbells, it has taken a little while to realize that the benefits are realized very quickly. Even just a morning jog can make a huge difference, and honestly gets me about as much benefit as my hour and some change workout at the gym. So understand that it is an incredible time and money investment to get maybe just kettlebells, or just going for a jog, which is incredibly cheap as it just so happens to be. So understanding the value that you get out of that and how little you need to actually invest can definitely help motivate you to actually just go and do it, even if it's just doing a little bit. Anyway, this has been a weird one. Hopefully they honestly stay this weird. It's definitely not the worst way to spend a day, but it'd be preferable if they didn't always have to be this dire. Forget like and subscribe, forget bell notifications. My main goal today was to hopefully instill some positive change and solutions into your life, because I know you're going through the same thing that I am if you're watching this video. And really, this information, a lot of it that I've learned is from other people doing the same thing. So if I can just help you in even a small way, that's amazing. And if there's other things that you do that help you a lot, let me know. Comment, reach out to me personally. I don't care. Let's just communicate. Let's stay in touch. Let's help each other help ourselves. Regardless of all of that, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.